So this is the third video in the series of preparing a mesh for use with Pandafold, or preparing a fursuit head for patterning. So first thing I'm going to do, because it's kind of been driving me crazy, is change the 3D printing settings on here. Let's see here. I just found this. I think it's going to be added. Too many menu options. Edit preferences. Okay, so I'm just going to make the scale in the 3D printer so big I don't ever have to look at this stupid little box again. I know it was shown somewhere else in the UI to select this, but I've spent too long looking for it and I just don't care. So now I'm just making the 3D printing volume so big that I don't ever have to think about it again. Okay, so now we're back here. Okay, so one of the most important things to think about when working with the 3D programs for making fursuits is the scale. So different editors have different scales. So Blender, I think, is 1 unit equals 1 meter. 3D Coat usually is 1 unit equals 1 millimeter, and Nomad Sculpt is 1 unit equals 1 millimeter. So as you're doing this stuff, especially since we're preparing this for patterning with Pandafold, we want to make sure the scale is right. So the customer that was originally working with this mesh has this one that they've created, and I'm going to use it to validate the scale on the new one we have is set up, so that the scale is right. So I'm just going to rotate this and try to get it lined up here. So this is that. So the reason I'm redoing this mesh is there's multiple reasons, but one of the big ones is the mesh has some serious problems. The normals are inverted on it, and it's got all of these internal shapes that we just don't really care about. And I wanted to show this process, like how I would go through this process so that customers aren't beating their heads against the wall trying to figure out, how do I do this? How do I take a sculpt full of holes here and full of vent holes, and how do I get it all set up? So that's one reason I'm doing it. The other is there's some considerations here that we need to think about as we're doing this. So let's see if we can line these guys up and see if the sizing is right. I'm going to say the sizing on this looks correct to me. The eye holes are about the same size. It seems like it's good. So I'm going to hide this. The little eye here hides these. And now I'm going to use the bust that I have to just double check the size. So this bust I know is sized correctly. And it gives us an idea of the size of a human head as we're working with this. So I'm going to set that up so it's in here, kind of where I would imagine it would go. Okay, so one of the first things to notice here is just the amount of space. This all seems good. When I design my own bases, I spend a lot of time analyzing the eyes and how they align, so that I can ensure that everything's going to work out well. So that's another thing we want to check. Okay, so now let's look at the customer's original mesh here and look at the next thing here. I'm going to convert this to voxel, so it fixes all the inverted normals, and it kind of makes it solid. Okay, so the second thing next to the eye here lets us put a mesh into transparent mode. And let me close this dialog box. It's probably going to pop up again in a few minutes anyways, but hey. Okay, so if I look at this, and let me turn, I'm going to turn these guys off. All right, so if I look at this, this looks good, except for there's one major problem. How do you get your head out of this thing? So that's not what I wanted. I wanted to manipulate this. So I would make the neck bigger. So if you look at this, like, your head's going to wedge against the back of the neck as you try to remove it. The challenge is, okay, so let's talk about some options. What we could do when we're patterning this is put a zipper in the back and make it so every single time you want to take this off, you have to unzip it. The disadvantage of that is that if you're in an emergency situation, like imagine, God forbid, there's a building fire or there's some other bad thing, or you've fallen and you're trying to get the head off, or you're having some health issue or whatever, um, you don't want to be fighting with a zipper on the back of a fursuit head. So while my fursuit heads will have zippers on the back, they're specifically designed so you can remove them without having to unzip them on purpose. You could do a Velcro seal here. You could do buttons or something else. When I sculpt this, I'm going to end up making the neck large enough so the bust could get out, which means the neck is going to be significantly larger. So the disadvantage of that is that it's not going to have this awesome defined shape of this neck here. But, there's trade-offs to this. You can only be, your fuzziest and as beautiful as you want with some constraints because you still have a human head. Okay. So the next thing we're going to think about here is the mouth. So this head has a movable jaw. And the challenge is, if we pattern this with that jaw fully closed, we're probably not going to have enough fabric for it to open very much at all. So I would not pattern this with the jaw fully closed. I would pattern it with the jaw somewhat open, not open all the way, not closed all the way, somewhere in between. So as I'm looking at this, I see now that the holes are not, I guess they are aligned. That's perspective, which is shown down here in the bottom corner. So the holes are not quite lined up. So that's ortho. Let me make sure. I guess they are lined up. Okay. So as we're doing this, we want to think about what we want to have happen with the mouth. So now we have this here. Let's go ahead and start filling all of these holes here. And I'm going to show you something very magical with 3D Coat. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it incrementally. So it's going to bump a version. Now it's at 002. Okay, so now if I want to go ahead and fill all of these holes, 3D Coat has a very magical tool to do this. But to do that, first thing I have to do is convert this back to a surface. So I'm going to click on the V. Now it's back to a surface. And the reason I'm doing that is because I can't use this tool in voxel mode. And it is this reconstruct tool here. And it has a close holes option. Okay, so let me show you what this does. So I am able to select the hole in the mesh. Maybe I am able to select the hole in the mesh. Okay, oh, I know what my problem is. I need to, so I think there's a bug here. This should work when I do this, and it's not working. And I think that what I need to do is, I think I need to reduce the resolution on this. Decrease object 2x. Nope, that's definitely not what I'm after. Let's see here. I don't think that, I actually am really curious. Nope, I didn't think so. Okay, let's undo that just in case it did something horrific. All right, let's go back to our voxel here and turn this guy off. And let's see if we decrease the resolution here. Go back down here, sample. Let's go down to like here maybe. All right, so let's try converting that to a surface now. All right, now let's see if our reconstruct mesh tool works. I guess if I was, I'm trying not to spend a whole lot of time making these videos because I have so many things I need to do with the software. So that's one of the reasons you're not getting the, yeah, now I wonder if I had the right tool earlier. That you're not getting this like perfectly edited video. I just don't have the time. All right, so 3D Coat has this amazing ability to close holes like that. So let's walk through what I just did there. First thing is the mesh is in surface mode. Second thing is I'm using the reconstruct here. I bet I had it on fill holes earlier. No, I really don't know what I've got going on here. 3D coat is so special sometimes. Reconstruct. Okay, so I had it on reconstruct. I see what I've done here. Okay. Yeah, so mesh is in surface. The tool is reconstruct. Okay. And what you need to do is you need to draw a line around the hole that you want to close, or the holes. We're going to try this with multiple holes. And then you're going to click apply. So it appears that the quality of how well it closes that hole is based upon how close that line is. So if we clear this and we try again, and I get it farther from that hole and click apply, you'll notice it's perfectly smooth. Let's go see what the inside of that looks like. Okay, the inside's not perfect, but I'll take that. I'll rock that. Okay. This is going to save us a lot of time having to do this any other way. So let's undo that and see how see what else, if we can do a bunch at once. Okay, so one of the mistakes that I have made with this when testing this earlier is if you happen to have this set up so it can see the other side of the mesh and you do your selection like this, it's going to select the voxels on the other side. So see how they turn dark gray? So now when I click apply, it's going to do the right thing, apparently. That is not what it did last time, is it screwed it up last time. So I would just try to not have the holes over other things when you're trying to fill them. So now, I am not going to turn symmetry on for this. I guess I could try it with symmetry on. I'm just going to try to fill all of these holes and just save as we go. So let's just see how this goes. I'm going to draw that line far away from these guys. I'm using the Alt key to pivot. Yeah, okay. So let me explain what happened there. I'm drawing on the 2D view, and I tried to rotate, and you can't do it. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's see if this plan works. Yeah, so this line is not on the surface of the mesh. It's in the 2D space, and it's being applied to the surface of the mesh. So if I rotate the mesh now, it's gonna not work like I want. Okay, I'll take that. Okay, let's see here. I would really love to know how the math behind this works because it is utterly magical. And this is one of the reasons I really like 3D Coat. You can tell that the people who've created this software are absolutely wizards with 3D software. And I am convinced it has algorithms that many other software just does not have because of how long it's been in development and how much of a wizard the people who work on this is. Okay, okay, so now we've closed those holes, and they're not perfect, but this will be good enough for patterning with Pandafold. And I was about to rotate the screen to capture that last hole. It's not worth it. All right. Now I can rotate the screen. That could be a little better, but it's fine. Escape when I want to cancel. Hold down Alt to rotate. Let's see if I can get just all of these in one big go. Yeah, it's insane to think about. It must be analyzing the curvature of the surface to try to figure out what it has to do to fill this. Oh, and now I have a problem. Let's see if I can do that. Nope. But I guess I can move it. Oh, I can pan, but I can't rotate. Okay. Awesome. All right. Let's continue filling holes. And the reason we're filling these is because Pandafold can't deal with these holes on the surface. So what will happen is your pattern will actually have these holes in them, which is not what we want. All right, so now let's see here. Let's see if I missed anywhere. All right, so I'm going to call that good enough. All right, so now to, what am I seeing there over here? There seems to be, I guess these are some small discontinuities. I think those will go away with revoxelizing and remeshing. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to take this work we've just done here and I'm going to mirror it to the other side. So I'm going to go back to symmetry and symmetry. You can click S, which I guess tosses that dialog box over here now. I think this is Z. Nope. It is X now. Okay, so now I want to mirror this side to that side. So the first part of this is turning the symmetry on. I am going to be careful about not changing the symmetry there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is the way that the sim copy in here works is the side that you last worked on is the side that will be copied. So I have it on smooth. I'm going to turn the smoothing down to almost nothing. So this way it doesn't really do anything. And I'm just going to smooth this out a little bit here. And now this side is selected. So now when I go geometry sim copy and done, now we have all our holes closed. Okay, I'm going to save this. And let's go do the jaw. All right, so this will be really easy. There's just not that many holes. There's holes in there. Okay. So let's see if I can get a view. Perfect. Come back down here to reconstruct and select these guys. I did not have that selected and it has to be in surface mode. Okay, so let's try this again. Fantastic. All right, so now let's do this. Let's close these guys up. Apply. All right, so now, again, I'm going to hit S to turn the symmetry on. It was X-axis. I'm going to choose the smooth tool so that I have selected, and all I'm just doing is clicking anywhere here. That'll set the side that we want to copy, and I'm going to save that again. So now we have this set up like I wanted. Okay, so now, this is fantastic. Okay, so now let's see if we can use this customer's old sculpt along with this one to get to where we want to go. Turn on that one. So I'm going to, let's see, how do I want to do this? All right, so we're going to duplicate this. So it's clone. So 3D Sculpt can clone with all sorts of insane options here. I'm just going to clone it there, and we're going to cut it to pieces. Okay. So now what we're going to do, so now I know for a fact that I have the right size head base. I'm actually going to push this back a little bit so I extend. Actually, I'm just going to scale the whole thing up so I get that neck size a little bit larger while retaining the shape. There we go. That's a good start. Okay. So now I'm going to turn off viewing the old one. All right. So now let's see. How do I want to do this? All right. So we're going to cut that somewhere here. Sorry, I'm trying to rotate. I'm using the number pad, and apparently it's number 8 to look at it from the side. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut. I'm going to turn off the view of these guys. And we're just going to cut this to pieces. Okay, so one of my most used tools in here is cutoff. I love this tool. Okay, so we're going to go to our brushes, and we can cut off using, I'm going to save this before I go too nuts with it. Okay, so we can cut a mesh to pieces using different tools here in different ways. So this is the, let's say for instance, I have the polyline tool selected. Anything inside that is going to be cut off. Okay, so I could come in here, and I've never actually, I almost always just use the polyline, but you could be like, I want a rectangular cut there, and it will just do it. So what we're going to do is polyline cut, and we're going to cut off the pieces we don't want. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to try to cut like this. All right, now let's take our mesh here. Let's undo that polyline cut. Let's turn you guys, I'm just going to turn them back on transparent so I can try to save the Chen. Okay, I'm going to change the color of this so we can more easily see it. That is fine. That shows us where that Chen is. All right, so we're back to our cutoff tool here. I want to save the horns. I don't want to save very much of the old one. And I guess I don't. I guess I want to do a little bit, be a little bit less greedy than that. Perfect. Okay, so now we have this. You know what? I want to be even less greedy. I want to actually have about to where the mouth is there, and I'll explain why in a second here. Let's see if I can. I want you to be visible. I want you to be kind of not visible. That really did not work at all like I wanted. We'll just try to get this here where I think the mouth is. So because this is a movable jaw head, what I'm trying to do is I want enough of them. That's perfect. Okay. So when I'm making my heads, I like to have the mouth be really kind of overly exaggerated in its expression. So with this, because it's a base that the customer already has, what I'm going to do instead is try to save the expressiveness that's already there. And I think this little angle there is part of that expressiveness here. So this curvature here is, I would want that curvature. And the reason I would want that curvature, so first off, I'm looking at this in orthographic. So whenever you're looking at this stuff to evaluate if you like the look of it, make sure it's in perspective. So now it's back into perspective. This is what it's going to look, this is closer to what it's going to look like in real life, okay? You'd have to consider your focal length and all the other stuff that goes into this. But this gives us a much more accurate way of looking at this in real life. So now imagine for a moment, you see this fursuit walking down the hall, or you're looking at it. What is going to help make this pop? And these little raised mouth, I don't know, the raised upper jaw, I think adds a lot of expressiveness and helps the suit really pop. So that's, I would want to keep them. It's easy enough to undo this, but if we decide to change our mind, but I would want to keep that expressiveness there. So we're going to leverage this sculpt to keep that expressiveness and maybe bring it back even a little bit further here and try to get a nice kind of curvature on it. So because I'm going to cut, I'm in perspective mode right now. So if I cut right now, if I use this cutting tool, it's not going to do what I want. And I think it will probably warn me. No, it did not warn me. So this looks like this triangle here. But if I were to move around, this will have cut, I think, yeah, it cut with perspective. So it's going to be larger on this side because our perspective view requires it to be larger. So if you look, you can see how using the cutting tool in a perspective view changes things. So we're going to undo that. Go back, hit 5 to go back into orthographic mode, hit 8 to go back to the side, and let's see if we can clean this guy up a little bit. I am going to try using this curves tool. How does this work? Okay, that's a straight on, just draw it like you want it. I was too lazy to fix my tablet still for this, so yeah, I'll rock that. Okay, we're still going to have to do other cleanup here. Okay, awesome. So now, let's say this is the shape that we roughly want. we're going to do some sculpting on this clay to get it kind of all smoothed out and nice and good transitions. So now, it's pretty good there. Now let's look and see, since we upscaled the neck, what it looks like with the bust. And I'm going to stop this video to make the next one regarding the neck, since we're already 25 minutes into this. Okay, so I'm going to turn this transparent, and let's see what that bust looks like now. I want to go back to my transform tool. Still would not be super easy getting your head out of this fursuit head. So we're going to work on doing the sculpting on this and the next one to improve that.